Hi there. Okay, I'm going to make I have an underlying assumption with this presentation, which is I'm making a big claim and I have to really work hard to prove my stuff to you. So that's why there's a lot of data and a lot of charts, but also because of all this, I've got it already on the blog on 90 Digital, so the URL will be on the slides later on. And you can go and download that if you're interested in the data. And also, one of my other little jobs, which I haven't done this morning, but I will, is I'll include all the original source data, all the spreadsheets and all the raw material that I used for this where I can. So really, this is more about justification and about some ideas rather than just launching into just do what I say and trust me because I tell you so. I assume you don't trust me, therefore I'm going to show you stuff that hopefully you think, you know what, this guy Nick is making sense and I think I'm going to steer things because I certainly have, and it's had a huge influence on our agency at 90 Digital, and it is now, I'd say, well, it's the third big thing that we do now. So I don't know about you, but I've come across lots of sites just like this. And their ranking. I'm sure you've all seen these. It's like some random site somewhere in a big money phrase, and you go, but where are the links? Because I don't see any. And you can see up there, it's just like no links. So, of course, when I came up with this big idea about why do sites rank with no links, I then went and hung out with some people I know. I call them like drug dealer types, but anyway. So the first question is, so that the guys have been really helpful to me, the crew at Black Hat Community. And the first thing is, of course, if you've got a domain and there's no links, and I will hold my hand up here because I saw this with the big free chip list. So I wrote a couple of articles about this because at that time Majestic didn't show me any real meaningful stuff. And I then revisited that site like the other day to recheck it, and of course by that stage the links had come through, Majestic had seen them all or seen some of them, and therefore my whole hypothesis about that site ranking really well with very few links was blown out of the water. But anyhow, so you got SAPE. I heard a stat the other day about SAPE that when Cutts and his crew had nuked 450,000 domains, I think. Many of you know a lot more about Black Hat than me. But apparently it accounted for like 4% of the network. So if you hang around in dark corners with the right kind of drug dealers, this is the kind of hardcore gear you can get that does work, I'm afraid to say. And it's a very sad thing that it works, but it works. So the next thing could be, for example, that you get a lot of crawlers that are getting blocked. So again, hanging out in the Black Hat forums, you see a lot of this sort of stuff. So these are networks. And this is actually one that came from, so this is something that, So anyway, I'll just go to this one. And what they're doing is they're doing little tricks like they're blocking all the crawlers with htaccess. Very clever. So the search engines can't see it, and and obviously the crawlers have to obey because htaccess is just throwing them out. So therefore, tools like Majestic, Ahrefs, Moz, and these things can't see the links. So that kind of makes sense. So far I was thinking, okay, this is not looking good because this stuff happens. But then, and remember, anyone who's writing, it's all in the blog, so you can get it later if you want to. You can also do robots.txt, but that's not really very clever, because if you look over there, it's all small writing for those at the back, but if you do user agent blah, 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 then Google sees this. So not clever. That's why if you play this game, if you've got a link network and you play this game, do it with htaccess according to my Black Hat buddies. So the other one is this Old Faithful, and this seems to work extremely well. And it's just a really simple idea. You just get a whole bunch of SAPE links or whatever, and you do some 301s, and basically you're just covering your tracks. And for a good reason, I guess, Google still allow PageRank to pass through 301s, because if they didn't, so many sites that were migrating would just not rank anymore. So obviously, they got to carry on this process. So I think broadly in the world of Black Hat, what I'm seeing is link networks that aren't discovered by the crawlers. Therefore, it's harder for other SEOs to shop those links. So for example, if you're doing disavow, if Majestic and the others don't see these, then how are you going to add them to a disavow file? So these sites, more and more of them just knock these out, and then you do 301s on top of that, all good times. And the weird thing about all this Black Hat stuff is it works. It's simple, it's profitable. But anyway, enough of that, because there's more to look at. So this one here, which is the site I showed you in the first slide, this one is a classic 301 redirect site. I know this because the guy behind it told me about it, and this is a legit site, so that is for real. And I think one of the things that a lot of people are like going, well, Nick, this whole thing about ranking with no links, it's bullshit, because links, of course, they count. Well, I don't know about that. So the thing is, not all of, well, maybe most of you, because you're all quite hardcore, maybe you do some action. By the way, when we talk about Black Hat, White Hat, I don't mean in the construct of Google, which is if you violate webmaster terms and conditions in any way, you're Black Hat. No, I mean hardcore. I don't mean not messing around. Just really going for it and doing some serious action. And what I was so surprised about hanging out with this community is just what a straightforward, linear process the whole thing was, and the economics behind it, how good they were. It's a bad thing for Google for me to say this, but it's a fact. Now, I have a reputation to take care of, and I've got clients that don't want to get nuked. So it is a war, obviously, and you don't want to get blown out of it. But anyway, moving on. The thing is, there are some people who don't do this sort of stuff. Maybe about half of you don't do that stuff we've just seen. So something else might be going on. A few of you might have a website that ranks really well, but you're not really getting any links because you just don't really care about that kind of thing. So I decided what I had to do was validate it, because I knew at the end, if I was going to make a big claim, I had to do my data. So happily, SEMrush gave us a research account, which is super cool. So we're like one of their research partners. Great. And they gave us 400 million API credits, which, if you know about SEMrush, is a ton of credits. I don't know. It's probably like $10,000 of API or something. I don't know. It's a lot. Or even more than that, actually. And I then went to Majestic Million, and I pulled, for those of you who don't know, Majestic Million is a list that Majestic did about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and they got the top 1 million domains by number of links going to them. So I downloaded the whole lot into Excel 2013, 64-bit, which could take a list that big. Then I filtered out all the .co.uk's because I wanted UK, because I wanted geographically centric stuff, because then it meant all the link stuff and the SEMrush data and all that kind of thing would be tighter. And I got to business with this thing here, 90 Data Grabber. So the story behind this is, we launched it a while ago. Very few people use it, but that's because most people don't have a clue about how powerful this thing is. So in very simple terms, what it does is it's based on Excel. We've done a rewrite, which we're launching next week, which means it's interoperable to Excel 2003 plus Mac. So we put all the logic server-side, but this is the cool thing it does. It interrogates SEMrush and Majestic APIs through Excel. So therefore, I can do stuff on this that you cannot do unless you go out and do this custom thing yourself. And we give it away, by the way. So if you're serious about your data, this tool is awesome. And one of the big things it unlocks is the ability to interrogate SEMrush with thousands of domains at a time. So with SEMrush, you go in, you can do one domain at a time. It's like watching treacle pour or something. It's really slow. With this thing, you can just bosh through it. So that means I can start to look at all the signals in a very different way. So again, it's a lot of validation here, and I'm going to skip along with this because there's a lot here, but I'll just explain what you're looking at. So this black line here is, this is 750 randomized domains, and there's a little randomizer thing you can set up in Excel, so it is genuinely random. And I've done it by organic keywords. So it's just, I figure that the more Google loves a domain, the more keywords it generally ranks. And I've validated that because I've got some correlation tables I'll show you. The point is that these blue lines, if you know about Majestic, you'll know that there's trust flow, and you know that anything under about, say, trust flow 15 is a bit questionable. It's like, it could be okay, could not, depends. So what I wanted to do is just get rid of all of the referring domains below 15, because I figured for trust flow 15 for the subdomain, if some of you will know about all this stuff, some of you won't. The ones that won't, all I'm saying is those blue lines are domains that are probably okay, roughly speaking. I can't account for disavow, but I can say they're probably okay. The gray bar at the back is trust flow, which is a really nice metric which accounts for a whole bunch of different variables, obviously, and correlates quite well with rankings as it happens. So the point is, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work this out, if sites get more keywords on Google, then surely those sites should have more blue bars. If that's the case, then why the hell do you get this? This is the very end of the tail. Those blue bars are a bit smaller than the ones at the top, but not a whole lot. And that blue line represents the correlation line, and the gray line is the trust flow correlation line. So there is a general correlation, but it's just not tight enough. It doesn't answer the question which is about links, like more links, more rankings. No, it's not that straightforward, because this tells me so. So the next thing I did was I zoomed in a bit, and so this is the same stuff zoomed in, and here we can see next, totally rule. This was done a couple of months ago, by the way, and you got Trivago and these others. Now, of course, sites get banned and things happen, but what I'm very interested in are things like all posters, or outliers like shelter.org.uk. So that's got massive trust flow, but it doesn't rank. So obviously there's a variable here, which is on-site optimization, of course. And when we talk about Google, the complexity is so enormous that there are no simple answers, because it's all shades of gray and it's fuzzy stuff. But the point is, in my mind, before I saw this stuff, I used to think more links, more rankings, more traffic, more everything. But when you actually see it on a graph, it just does not correlate like that. This is a bunch of correlation tables. Again, it's all on the site, 90digital.com/blog. The PPT is there right now because I put it on this morning. And you can download you can have a good look at these. They're very interesting. One of the things you see here is, for example, just to explain what you're looking at. On this column here, the vertical, you're looking at Majestic data, just lots of different metrics. And then you've got keyword data, as in number of keywords ranking from SEMrush, cost, as in organic traffic cost, and then finally, you've got the volumes of traffic at the end, and then you've got all the correlations. What I've found really interesting is that for casino, for example, you have the highest set of correlations for keywords and links. So in other words, because casino is short tail, it's very hardcore, no one has an awful lot to say, there's not very much difference between one casino or another, therefore the differentiator is more links. Fine, I get that. But if you look at, say, Majestic Million, the correlations for referring domains are about 30%. But if you look at, say, cost, it's down to 10%, which is a very low correlation. And even, I think there's even a negative correlation. Oh yeah, so betting is 52%. So betting is interesting because it's much closer to the normal web than casino, because it's longer tail and so on. So therefore, the correlations drop a lot. So yeah, it's reasonable to say that if you're in casino, you spam it, or you do whatever you have to do to get those links. But I think there's another variable at play here, which is a subtle but important differentiator. And so broadly speaking, what they are my conclusions actually, that essentially the tighter the keyword spread, then the more links count. But the catch is that when you're in a spammy sector and it's all links, then you run very close to the wind when it comes to the Google police penalizing your site. And we have, in our agency, we have loads of big clients, and I guess 888 is one of our biggest. And there are lots of huge brands that in iGaming that have had penalties and now are very shy. So they can't play that game anymore, and Google is very happy about it. So the ecosystem's changing, and we have to change with that ecosystem. So, by the way, just to say, this is a very important point. As a little aside, we do a ton of outreach. We really do, and just so many link placements. And I guess if I was to say in volume terms, if I look at the number of link placements we do and the volume of activity, we must be the largest agency for iGaming links, earned links, that is, in the country. I'm sure there are other people that would contest that, but I'm fairly sure. I don't think we're largest by much. Sticky Eyes is a big player. AEMA is also a huge player. But for people, so we've been around. So this is how we do our stuff when we get links. It's very important that I explain this. So what we do is we do a sweep with Majestic. We use Citation Labs, a link prospector a lot of the time. It's great. It's just Google Scraper on steroids. Really nice. And then a lot of best backlinks, that kind of data. We then filter out everything TrustFlow 15 and below for subdomains. And this is the little magic trick. And you guys, by the way, most of you, if not all of you, can't do this because you don't have Data Grabber, which is why you should download Data Grabber and start playing, by the way. What we do is we run those lists through SEMrush. And if the domain doesn't come up on the database, then we throw the domain out. Then we go back to Majestic metrics and we use them again because we validated Majestic metrics. It's massively important because there's a one big idea here, which is if Google ranks it, Google probably loves that link a little bit more than a site that Google does not rank. It's a fairly basic hypothesis, but I think it's reasonable. Anyway, moving on. I think there is another force in play here. I really do. And I feel this because I've seen it too many times where sites that just would not do any of that black hat action rank above stuff that we are working really hard on. So something is going on. That is my theory. This is an absolutely cool tool, by the way. This is SERPWoo. And if you haven't had a play, I suggest you do. For me, this is one of the nicest interfaces for rank checking. Now, we did some work on some stuff as well, played around some tool ideas and this kind of thing, but these guys beat us to it. Now, I want to show you this. Hands up, a little bit of audience interaction. Hands up, who thinks that Moz.com goes and does a lot of spamming to help their rankings? Hands up. Oh yeah, there's one guy in the back. Yeah, you're right, they probably are spamming on a massive scale. They need to, of course. Well, here's something very interesting. So this is from SERPWoo. If I had this for casino SERPs, because I only found this out through the Black Hat guys the other day, if I had casino SERPs or whatever, I would have tracked that, but I haven't, so here we are. 20th of January, they were ranking 5th, and something happened. And they ended up ranking number 1, and they've held on to that ranking. But when you look at the links, now again, it could be that SAPE has just done a massive injection, or they've got a load of 301s or whatever, but I'm going to assume something here, that Rand Fishkin and the Moz crew would not risk blowing up their domain to rank a bit higher for an important phrase, but nevertheless, why would they? Why would they spam? Just does not make sense. So when you look at this one, so the top one is domains over, this is fresh index, so it's pretty good like this. And you can see these are links to that page. So the page that ranks is Beginner's Guide to SEO, and that was Google.com. And you can see nothing much is going on here. On the 20th of January, it had a lift, but there's no real bump in links. You look at referring domains, nothing. So why the hell the change? What on earth is going on? So this is backlinks. So as you know, they went from SEO Moz to Moz and so on. And you can see over at the end there on the top one, the graph's going down precipitously. So obviously, that's not really doing much. And you can see down here, referring domains, not much is happening there. And if we go back out and we zoom out to moz.com, because some of you are going to say, Nick, what about the main domain? Of course, they got a pile of links, and it just meant that they did a load of internal redirects, and then, of course, they ranked. Yeah. Well, I don't see anything, unless a flat line means something else to you than it does to me. So there was one thing. I downloaded all of the backlinks to that page on Majestic. So I then pivot tabled them, and you can see here there was a spike. But half of those links were from one domain. So, and this happened back in December. It was Saturday. It was big link Saturday for that page. But I don't see a bump in rankings. So I don't see a correlation here, unless all of you do, and I'm just blind, but I'm not seeing a correlation. So again, it just validates my point that I think there's something else going on. And it has really wound me up, and some of my crew are here, they'll know, because I kept on going on about this bloody thing. And I think there is another force. And it's very powerful. And I think it's the thing that's filling in the vacuum that links are kind of making for it. In other words, I think links are becoming less and less valuable, and I think this other thing is getting more and more important. Do you want to know what it is? Are you sure? I mean, I could just stop here if you like. Okay, I'll show you. Yeah, that's right. And I think that this is the big new kid on the block. It's been around a while. But you know that whole annoying phrase, the elephant in the room? Do you ever hear that one? Where it's so big, you don't even see it there. Where no one talks about it because everyone just kind of takes it for granted. Well, I'm happy to share it with you that we've done some experiments, and I can't tell you which clients because it's all a bit sensitive. But I got loads of stuff here to show you some validation of this hypothesis. Firstly, Rand, good old Rand, hey. And I do admire him, by the way, even though he's a bit, I don't know, whatever. That's another subject. Okay, point is, here was his experiment. What he did was, he asked, like all of you, he said, hey, Twitter lovers of Moz, will you just click to this search result, wherever it is. Click to my search result, would you? So they did. And it went from 7th, I think it is, up to, yeah, that's right, 7th for iMac Lab, and then bounced up to number 1, and you can see he's got some SERP stuff there. And there it is there, there's a screen grab. And he wrote a blog post about this. So it just validates the idea that clicks affect rankings. Okay, now what if it was the other way around? Okay, this is great because this is a really solid hypothesis being proved. So this guy, Gorlitz, he had a page ranking for keyword Penguin 3.0. Some of you may know the guy. Very cool guy, actually. And he built ClickBot, and that's right, he built a ClickBot. What he did was he instructed the ClickBot to click on everything but his own search result. And guess what happened? His rankings tanked. So that's quite compelling as an argument. So for those of you who want to know which way to go, you do have choices here, I'm glad to tell you. You can take the high road, you can take the low road. So let me just explain, roughly speaking, in drug parlance, not that I do drugs, but medical drugs. You get overweight, you get unfit, you get a little bit of a heart problem, you're stuck on aspirin for the rest of your life. Or you could just get fit and lose some weight, and then you won't be stuck on low-level drugs for the rest of your days. That's the high road versus the low road. I don't want to talk about the rights and wrongs of black hat over white hat and all this kind of thing, because that gets all moralistic. To me, SEO is an ecosystem, and in ecosystems, no one says, that's a mean lion for eating that poor little Bambi deer. You just go, well, it's a lion, it's eating. It's the same thing with this. This guy sells some stuff. I like this guy a lot. He's funny. I don't like suits very much, but I do like this guy. So let's have a listen to his pitch.
The simple thing is that Google never likes to skip this video. It's a money matter.
It is a money matter, okay?
I'm talking about a new method of doing SEO. As you all know, Google keeps updating this algorithm, and all SEO work goes in veins. In this situation, we are just losing hundreds of dollars every month. The simple thing is that Google never likes SEO's work. What influences website position for a particular keyword in search results? Apart from SEO, there's one other aspect that influences website positions for a particular keyword in Google search results. And that is thousands of searches done every day. Yes, Google takes these searches seriously. And this is what Google considers the most, because these searches are from real people.
Okay, I'm going to move him on because I'm going to run out of time, and that would be annoying for all of us, I think. Because there's more. So this guy, just to explain, what he's doing is he's selling ClickBot, just like Gorowitz, that guy. So this is a very easy thing to do. My view is, yes, it works. And it works because I've seen it work. So that's a good start. I've seen it work because I hang out with people who do this stuff and I've seen it firsthand. Therefore, I can tell you it works. And it's all pretty simple. There's a whole crowd of black hatters just seeping out from under the woodwork, and they're selling these things. They sell them because it works. That's why, by the way, just as a thing, if you don't hang out in any black hat forums, you should. Because those guys know how the engines really work. They park all that subjective stuff and they just go, okay, did this work, did that work? That's good, because it's facts. Anyhow, the other thing you can do, which we've also looked at very carefully, is crowdsourcing. That's what Rand Fishkin did. So there are a few different services. They're quite easy to find once you dig around, and essentially they're mechanical Turks. So what they'll do is they'll get a load of students or whoever, they'll pay them not much money, and they're given instructions. The instructions are real simple. Go and click on this, go do this search on this particular browser, on this particular version of Google, and then seek out that particular site. Then when you're on the site, go and click around, look at 3 or 4 pages, spend 4 or 5 minutes there, or less, or whatever, and then come out. Then go and click on one other random site. Great. It works. So this is a big deal, and there's quite a lot of this stuff going around. Even Google do it, I think. So you know Google did this whole mobile-friendly thing on SERPs for mobile. Well, my theory is that they're up to it too, because they know that actually if users click on things, then maybe they like stuff more. And by the way, we're not talking about Google Analytics here, or any of that level. We're talking about, on one thin level, we're just talking about stuff on their search pages. But of course, if you use Chrome, they know stuff too, and so on. So they've got a very good picture of what users are into. That's why I think CTR stuff, or CTR rates, are a huge factor these days. But the catch is that if it doesn't work, or if it does work, and you do it artificially, you're stuck in it forever because your rankings will tank. So just looking at some brands here, in affiliate, they always talk about be a brand. I don't know if you've heard these sessions over the years, and it's all been a bit like whatever. Because most people think that's a brand. Well, actually, to me, this is a brand. It's an awesome brand because it does something really useful. It gives me stuff I need because it has a purpose. I want calculators. I want to work out my betting. And if you look at the stats, this was done yesterday, actually, you can see it's rocking along, and it's doing really nicely. Those SERPs are climbing beautifully. So, yeah, maybe they just had a big injection of SAPE, maybe they've got a load of 3 of ones, whatever, maybe, I don't know. But I do know there's enough people outside of this scene with something going on, which is why I reference Moz, to tell me that this is a real signal, and I take it very seriously. Metrics aren't particularly strong. And interestingly enough, you go into Majestic, same old story, very few links coming in. And this site's been doing well on this set of metrics for a while. Subtext is, I looked at the number of, the amount of organic cost per inbound link above TrustFlow 15. They ordered the list of the 500 iGaming domains that I had that I was looking at by that, and I found this one pretty quickly. And you can see here, there you go. These are the links that are above TrustFlow 5, I think. Not many, but it's rocking. It's doing really well in the betting landscape, and it's a success as a site goes. So this is the elephant in the room. So Google go and release this thing, Rater Guidelines. How many of you have read Rater Guidelines? Hands up, I'd love to know. Oh, yeah, there's a few smart people. Well, the rest of you, please, if you want to do something useful with your spare time, read that thoroughly. Just Quality Rater Guidelines 2014. It's awesome. It's Google telling their raters who are judging the quality of websites so that they can feed that into their algo what to look for. And everything they say, everything they talk about, fits very well into this model here, the ACE odds, if you actually look at it from this way. They have purpose. They are doing stuff that people want. So you look at this SERPs here, calculate accumulator. This is the most clickable SERP of all of those, I think, because it's the only one that's actually a proper accumulator calculator. So I'm not banging on about do great content, they'll love you, be nice, and walk around with a halo. I'm just saying, for your own for your own benefit, think a bit about click-through rates, or fake it if you have no imagination whatsoever. Now, I've started doing a big series of articles in Calvin Air. It's the SEO tip of the week. So this is going to roll out for 15 weeks, actually. It's a long old thing. Nicola Stott, who's here, she's also working on Calvin Air and doing her stuff, which is really cool. And anyway, so I'm digging into this whole thing in a really big way. The good thing is, you don't have to listen to me talk about it. Go and read what Google tell you. So I'm not like making a big deal of this. It's Google. By the way, the third thing I talked about at the beginning is trust optimization. And I'm going to show you a little formula in a minute. So what I'm saying is, optimize your site to be trusted and clickable. If you do that, you get user engagement. If you do that, the algo loves you. I think in the past, when people talked about user engagement, it was all a bit woolly and a bit like, well, why do I bother? I just slam and load more links. I'm saying the algo responds to CTRs. It responds to people going in. Fact. We've seen that because we've seen the case studies, and I've seen it for real. So I know it does. Therefore, this stuff is stuff I take very seriously with all our clients now. And in essence, just to recap, if you've got a site that people want to click on, the algo responds and ranks you. Very simple. How about that? I mean, it is that simple. It is that big elephant in the room. It's that bloody obvious. And here's the even more crazy part about it. Google give you the tools you need to optimize for this stuff. Because in WMT, if you go to your own WMT and you click on a keyword, they'll show you what your position was, what your CTR rate was per position. And here's a thought for those who like their numbers. If I rank you flatline, if I'm Google, I rank you flatline number 2 or whatever, I don't really, statistically, it's very difficult for me to work out whether there's an anomaly or whether actually your CTR rate is higher. So do you remember a couple of years ago that the search results started jiggling around a lot more? I think it's because they want to constantly audition and test for different pages to see if they get good CTR or not, or abnormally high or low CTR. And you can see this one, for example, has a CTR of 10% for 2, and by the way, its rankings did drop. So that totally makes sense to me. The formula is real simple. Step 1, you start off with why you're here. What's your mission? Now, if your mission is being a black hat and you don't really care, you just want to put a crap page up and get loads of traffic through it, rock on. But a lot of us don't want to play that game because we don't want to play that game. If it works for you, I'm cool with that. So step one is think about brand, which is why we have a head of brand in our company. And when we work with affiliates, and by the way, we do work with a lot of affiliates, step one is, why are you here as an affiliate? What's your purpose? How can we make you more attractive? Step two is get all the on-site stuff sorted out, the architecture, the keywords, all that kind of thing, but make sure that the site's cool and clickable. Step three, get a few links in. If you're a fresh domain, what I've noticed is you audition far more easily. So if you think of the concept of auditioning, in other words, I'm auditioning, and if you don't like me, you're not going to ask me back. But if you do like me, you will. How does Google audition? By click-through rate, by user engagement, obviously. So if you get 1 and 2 right, if you get on-site and off-site right, you're still not necessarily going to audition well. So you need the 3 things to make it all work. And if you do mix in a few decent links, you don't need that many to get the thing moving. And or if you do a little bit of CTR manipulation, spam, just to get you there, because you know you've got a good domain. And we've seen this. Our chief SEO scientist has done some work on this, Julia Logan, who's there. And she's proven it. Like, without her support, I don't think I wouldn't be as confident, but she's taken stuff from page 4, 47th I think it was, right up to position 12 with minimal CTR manipulation. Minimal. It just bounced straight up there. Now obviously it's okay doing it once or twice. If you do it wholesale, then be careful, because Google will see it's been gamed and then they're going to come after you. Think about PPC. PPC click fraud is a big deal. They have really good algos to check this stuff out. What I think will happen is, now that we're becoming aware of this, they're going to step up their game on spotting fake clicks. That's just my theory. But anyway, that is a simple formula. So I just want to finish with this thought, really. And here's a big idea. What if users actually wanted to be on your website? What if you just put a little less money into links and a little more money into being engaging? Then maybe you would get the engagement metrics that you need to hold those rankings. And the other really interesting thing is that sometimes in life, perversely, if you change the way you think about things, then everything changes. Now, here's a big idea for you. Google might want you too, because Google has users who will walk away if they don't get what they want. Therefore, Google needs you just as much as you need them, in a sense. But the point is that if Google treats everyone badly and their SERPs become a wasteland, then Google is dead as a search engine. So if you think about it the other way around, and you just think, I'm going to do something useful to the audience I care about. I don't have to look fancy. I could look like ASOS. I'm not trying to be a big brand. I just want to be useful. Then maybe your day will come and you will prevail. Thank you very much.